What is up? Workbringer here, and today I'm bringing you my very first timed Halls of Atonement plus 15. Now, for context, this is a partial friend group. Jago, I think, has made an appearance on the channel before. We've played together quite a bit. And it's also a voice comms group, and I think partial guild. Not my guild, but I believe Jago's guild and his Discord. So, we do have quite the advantage compared to normal pug groups in that I know that most of this group is like 1400 IO, 15 halls, shouldn't be hard for anyone. As the demon hunter dies, I'm gonna have to assume that's thrust. When I play healer, I do have damage taken and things like that on details, and I can tell how people die, but as a tank I'm like, let's just keep it moving here. So we're going to start with that pull. I don't like the triple pull version of that. We already had someone die. The triple pull version where you basically do this whole front part in 2 pulls, which is really pretty cool, and then you have pride for the Shard of Halkias and the 2 casters. That's cool in a more controlled group. Although this is a partial friend group, partial guild group, it's not like we run together all the time. It's still the first time we've basically played together. So I know a little bit about Jago, and he probably knows a little bit about the group, but no one really knows about me. I don't know about the healer. So anyway, I'm not trying to pull 3 things together, because if everyone doesn't pop everything from healing to from you surviving and DPS, that pull goes even worse than that one did. Someone's already dead. And Halls of Atonement, imagine, on the first pull. But it could be like my somewhat crazy way of possibly the way that I was kiting the bears. Just, it made it hard to tell exactly where the thrust is going to happen. And the way that I mitigate that, which is probably not the move, is that I'm just always running in a circle, but I kind of always have to be slightly running away from these bears, right? Looks like I have elected to clear my stacks with Kyrian file there. That's fine, they're getting up to 2. Not a lot of CC on the bears, but these are just 2, right? Not too bad. They're Gargons. Are Gargons dogs? I think I've called these dogs and bears, but really they're Gargons. They're a Shadowlands exclusive animal, I imagine. I don't believe they have those on Azeroth. So this is a slow route compared to how fast you can do it, but what I've learned on a 15 is that not wiping, that's the most important part about a 15, right? You do have to go kind of fast on certain dungeons, which we'll talk about, the ones where time is really the battle. Halls of Atonement, Mists of Tyrna Scythe, Sanguine Depths, if you watch that run, those are not dungeons where the time really matters that much. It's try not to die 17 times like we basically did on our Sanguine Depths run. And the same thing goes for this one. If you just do the mechanics and you're not full party wiping like twice, you will basically time halls. Now, for better or for worse, the title of this video is something along the lines of storming almost costing us the run. But you won't get to see that until the very, very last boss. I'll just tell you up front, if you want to skip that, all this run, and go check it out, it's the last boss. And I can talk about why it almost cost us the run. I think it's pretty obvious, but it's something to consider with storming, specifically on Halls of Atonement, where a lot of people are like, this is a free dungeon. It is, but on every affix brings something a little spicy, and I haven't run any keys this week, which I think will be relevant by the time I leave this, or put this video online, is that I believe this week is Tyrannical Explosive. I haven't run any. Explosive really adds a bit of spice to even the freest dungeons, and on the last boss, if you need to leave the Ritual of Woe to go hit one of the explosives, that's gonna be a bad day. So look at everyone flexing the mounts here. I'm gonna get that pretty soon. Flexing the mounts, that's cool. Show them, you know? I'm asking the group here if they have cooldowns, and they say no. So this is what I do kind of frequently now. I'm gonna give this guy the A shield, bring him over, taking big dam. And we're just gonna handle these packs together. Now there's a lot of kicks, right? So Cap Totem, very nice. Probably should have saved Divine Shield, but at the same time, I'm just trying to kill everyone. Probably should have Divine Shielded that. We have the stun from the Demon Hunter. Those gotta go. Do I get both? No, there's 3, so one of them goes out. But we're doing the kicks, but you don't have to burn anything crazy. And maybe by now, someone's 1-minute cooldown has come back. Maybe their 2-minute cooldown. In either case, all we're gonna take here is the Collector. I'm gonna lose aggro on Shard of Halkias. And this is a pretty manageable pack right here. And I like this route a lot. I've seen like the official like plus 20 way of doing this place where you are a little bit pressed for time. You do need to do triple pulls almost every single time, but this is not that run. 15 is like a whole new bracket. 15 to 20 is like a whole new world, and it's kind of like when you first do 10s. 10s are kind of easy. Like when you're doing 9s, you're like, I don't have pride, and the whole thing is a slog, but as soon as you get a 10, you're like, oh man, all we do is kill this pride, which doesn't hurt that much on a 10, and all of a sudden I have like insta lust. It's not even lust, it's just more damage, more mana, more healing. Like, it's great. Going from 9 to 10 is like an epiphany on how this game plays. And 15 is not as much of like, oh, now we have pride where we didn't before, but it's kind of a new bracket, right? And I think it's kind of like self-enforced by the groups that will push a key like this. More or less, my experience on the 15s is that they're pretty experienced groups. Everyone's around 220-ish. And, you know, of the keys that are, you know, 15 to 20, of course, 20 is 15 is the lowest. That's obvious and self-defined, but it's kind of like where I think 15, I'm trying to explain it, where 15 is kind of when people gear cap, more or less, right? If you're full Mythic, I think the highest you could go is 229. You have to have 233 weapons, everything else 226. Like, that's good. But people are getting around gear cap when you're doing 15s, and then begins the probably real Mythic Plus journey. Not that before it is less valid, but basically where like you're not going to get any more gear. The only way you're going to time anything higher than 15, right? Kind of, right? Is if you're good. Is if the group is good, if you can do efficient triple pulls, if you know all the mechanics and you really minimize dying, right? So it's like the late game of Mythic Plus, and I'm just starting to experience it now where I mean, there's a little bit more gear I need at 226. I don't think I'm gonna get 233 weapons. I already have basically 226 weapons. These super low trinkets, if I upgrade them, it's good for the eye level, but like honestly, it's not gonna change that much about the gameplay. So that's kind of what I'm explaining and been experienced. It's like, oh, this is like actual endgame here. For Mythic Plus, it's like gear kind of doesn't matter. No one's here for gear. It's all for score, and kind of interesting. So I do elect for this double pull here, triple pull technically, but we get the Gargon as a friend. Though I do elect to simplify it by repentancing the Depraved Houndmaster, so there's just no threat of the Gargons absolutely one-shotting me. Like, they're doing enough damage already on a fortified 15, right? 3 stacks of Gargon, my health is just yo-yoing up and down even though I'm in full mitigation, and there it is. So it's a little inefficient, right? So we're gonna have to go and kill this, and it's extra time. Do I go for the... I feel like I want to go for the casters too. I feel like... Oh, but they're melting this. We still have a little bit of pride left, so possibly we could have killed them all together, but as you should know as a tank, if that goes off, if Loyal Beast goes off for some reason, it's just not good. It's not good, and so we elect for the safe route, which the group confirms. I told them, I was like, hey, you know, on this next pull, we're going to have pride. I was like, we can like giga pull this if you want. And I think it was Jago's key. He basically said like, he was like, listen, we're not trying to +2 this. They just want to get a 16 key out of it, so let's just go nice and easy. I was like, oh, cool. Pressure's off on me to have to like absolutely destroy this dungeon and do the route. So that was kind of nice, right? Kind of a low pressure 15 halls, which is cool, you know, whereas I think possibly people like to game halls, like it's like, oh, it's Halls of Atonement, let's like really crush this dungeon, right? But for me, it's the first time I'm going to get IO from a 15. Everyone else already has the IO, and I think they just want to go push the 16 after. It's like, oh, Halls is free, pretty straightforward as long as we just don't all wipe constantly. or die on a boss. To be honest, die on echelon. Basically, if we don't die on echelon, it's really not that big a deal of a dungeon until the end with storming. So that's cool. Low pressure, you know. I already know one of the DPS and they know each other and we're on voice. So that's very nice. And we are able to communicate cooldowns and what's available. You'll see that I think this is the first dungeon. You'll see that I'm running Omni CD, so I can see some of the cooldowns on the left. However, I do have to prune them down, and I was actually talking with Joggle. I was like, hey, what are your big cooldowns that I can track? I don't know a Warlock all that well. And even though I know the name of some of the spells, I don't know what the icons are for like SLT and stuff like that. So it's stuff that I'm learning. I'm learning to track. And like I said, endgame Mythic plus 15 to 20 is what I would consider at this point. It's really about understanding and awareness of what the party has, not just can you survive it. You know, that's priority one. Do you know the route? You have to. Even in a 10, you need to know the route. Can you survive the tactic you're going to do? How many kicks are left? And what cooldowns are up for the pack that you're going to do, right? So I can think about a comp in my head, look at my MDT route, and kind of feel out when do I think cooldowns are up at different points on the route, assuming we don't wipe. As soon as there's a wipe, there's runbacks, and then all of a sudden, like, everyone has their 2-minute cooldown back at kind of an odd time, you know. But if no one wipes, you can kind of guess it here. So if you watched my Spires of Ascension route, you'll see that I do a lot of these pulls where, like, we'll get Pride, but there's going to be one mob that's been hard CC'd somewhere. And the question is, do you pull it in or not? And on my Spires of Ascension, every single time on the 15, I elected to not pull it in, and we didn't wipe. There was no issue. And the one time I decided to pull the mob in, while we were doing Pride, the healer and I died. Luckily, we were able to res someone else, but it's the thought. If you're going to do the CC, you lost big aggro. I did not remember that. Lost big aggro to not Fell Devastation, whatever the I-beam huge burst from the Demon Hunter. I lost aggro, and I'm doing normal tank rotation here, right? I'm not like just hitting him with Blessed Hammer. Like, this is a normal threat. Lost big threat, hits the Demon Hunter and the healer all at once. I don't know what to say about that. It's the same thing with Convoke and Combust. I'm like, well, you know, like, I do the threat that I do, and when you do big damage, you like quadruple my threat in a global, I lose threat. I believe Blizzard has stated that that's part of the gameplay they want for tanks, is that threat isn't just like, you know, set it and forget it. It's like you have to fight for threat a little bit, and Demon Hunters, they bring that spice to the run. Who else is going to get hit? He almost got out. I saw him dash away, but he tried to get out of that frontal. So, you know, a lot of party damage. Like, if I was the H-Pal in this group, I would be like, you jokers, why are you all dying so much? But H-Pal in this fight, we got, you know, that's like one holy shock, one like word of glory, no big deal. But a lot of avoidable damage going out here. That being said, it's quite stabilized, quite fine. So, cleaning that up, pretty easy. A lot of avoidable damage. There. So everyone's cooldowns are probably gone, and we're just going to get into this quad pack here. There's 2 Curses of Obliteration. I get that one, apparently. Not going to get that one. I should have, though. I had Hand of Justice. It's something I'm working on. And I recently discovered, by watching a PvP video, that I'm using stock camera settings, which I did not know that there was another option. So when I move my camera overhead, as soon as I start walking, the camera's going to try to level itself back out. So I'm always having to hold right click to keep it around, keep it above when I'm walking. And you can turn that off in a setting. I don't know what it's called, but it's off for me now. So if I tip my camera down like this, I can now walk around and it won't actually try to level itself back out. And what that allows me to do is go overhead, handle a pack like this, and take my finger off of right click so that I can more accurately select things while keeping the camera up and moving. So that has, it's something I'm still getting used to, but it's something that I think is going to help improve my reflexes when I'm trying to stay overhead, select and kick, select and kick, select and kick, and where tab targeting kind of fails me, which tab targeting for that with a group of 4, kind of sketchy. Tab targeting with like 2 or 3, it can be okay. It's pretty predictable for me. But in that case, again, you need to really be able to keep the camera overhead and then also accurately grab the right mob and silence them or stun them. And it's something that I really like about Prot Paladin play at the higher levels where kicks are like very important, especially for a double pull, is that if I do it right, I can kick a lot, right? Out of the gate, I can do regular kick, which is rebuke, I think. I just call it kick. I have Hodge if the mob can be stunned. I can save a shield, which is unlikely because I probably pulled with it. And I have Divine Toll, which is also unlikely unless the pull is a minute long, because I probably also pulled with Divine Toll just for pure aggro, right? But if it was the case where I could save all those things, that's an AoE kick, that's a stun, and then 2 kicks from rebuke and a shield. So I can kick a lot of things at once. It does require some precision selection. So what you can do in this situation, and I'm looking at the timer and we are Omega fine, right? And this group has relayed and we're on voice comms. I'm like, hey, you want to take it easy? That's cool. If we wanted to make up the time, it's a little spicier. I think, is anyone going to get this frontal besides me? No, okay, not too bad. If we wanted to really make it up, we could skip this patrol and take both of the slashers on the stairs up. That's an okay route, right? That's an okay thing to do. I've done it before. The only little thing is that, well, here, if we die on Echelon, it's the key. Okay, that's the key. That's too much time. However, if I die, or one of us dies on, say, the Bears or something like that, because that can go wrong. One or two people dying on the bear trash, completely fine, right? That's going to be okay. It's a short run back. However, it's not a short run back if you have to wait for that patrol. So it's neither here nor there. It's not an excuse. I don't really know which is better. You could rogue shroud it and take both, but what I will say as a plus for that extra like 15 seconds of having to wait and bringing it back is that if one or two people dies and they have to run back or they want to run back, the way that we've killed this trash is that you have a perfectly clear route completely back up to this room. Now, maybe the stones, the other slasher, you're going to have to wait for them to turn to stone, but you're not going to have to wait for the patrol. You can just run by this one, and that's a little plus. You know, if it happens, it's a plus of what would be a bad situation. We don't need to rely on that in this case, but it is something to be said about this route here. It's a little bit slower, but it is safer if there is any runbacks, if there are any runbacks. So we're going to get into Pride here. And so far the affix is a free one. What even is it? Oh, Inspiring. In Halls and Necrotic, not Necrotic Wake, Spires, basically the mobs that are inspired are the ones that I CC anyway. It's the Houndmaster, which sometimes, as you've seen, I'll just isolate the Houndmaster from the Gargons. Lol. Takes longer, but she'll never do Loyal Stoneborn's cast. She's not jumping around like crazy the whole time. They're inspired and I already take them out. You know, the only one of those like those little gargoyles that are running around in the pack we just did, that one I don't obviously CC normally, but not a huge deal. We just killed them pretty quick. And then handled the slasher. And the Eviscerator, is that her name, jumping around? So I don't remember how this goes. That was the slowest reaction to it's not Sanguine, but let's call it Sanguine. That was the slowest reaction to Sanguine that's like possible. That was so slow, and it's a lot of damage. You see how quickly I almost died there? That was bad. So we burst this first one down, and I guess I've used Divine Toll on something. Huge mistake. But what I want to talk about for this boss, especially if you're trying to do it this week on Tyrannical, is that the first wave of ads comes out, right? So DK is gonna grippy hands, or like slappy hands, bring them all in. You know, if you're a DH, you're gonna like grip sigil. And then for me, it's like, I'm gonna Divine Toll. And everyone's gonna burn all their AoE cooldowns and be like, yeah, we own. But you know what? There might be another round. Not possibly on this run, because they're slaying this. No, there's still another round. There's probably at least one other round. Oh god, I'm just sitting in the Sanguine. And if everybody blew their AoE all in their first pack, that is sad. and that is not a good thing. Now in this one, we just eviscerate it. Again, it's a 15. Everyone here is like 1400 IO or whatever-ish. But what I would say is maybe, as if you're the tank and you're a prop Paladin, I'm like, maybe hold Divine Toll for the second round, because I almost guarantee you they're going to pop off and kill all, like people are going to pop off cooldowns on the first one, and you probably only have to really worry about the second pack. If it's tyrannical, you might have to worry about the third or fourth, right? So just at a 15, you just start thinking about it. Just start thinking about cycling your cooldowns, right? Not everyone bopping off on the first one. Again, if it's fortified, yeah, maybe you just one phase them, like no big deal. So with this one, again, it takes time, but don't really want to die here. I have repentanced one of the Houndsmasters, and I would guess that it's either a Hex or an Imprison on the other, right? So let's look. It's a Hex, so lovely. Yeah. Healer and tank are like, we don't want to die in here. I was laughing that didn't break Hex. Avenger Shield doesn't break Hex. So the tank's like, me, you could watch some of my other Halls videos. I've died in here a lot. It's not that difficult to die. The bears are building up bleeds. There's 2 must-hard stuns. And if I have to be in range, Hodge range of these, it means that I'm basically taking a lot of damage. Right? And I guarantee you this Resto Shaman's seen a lot of tanks die in this room as well. So that's the easy way of handling it. It does require a little bit of coordination. We're on voice comms. I'm like, I'm going to CC the Houndsmasters. Who's got cooldowns left after Echelon? Raise your hand. No one. So let's CC these Houndmasters and just kill these bears, right? And the other thing is this week is that the bears are, of course, inspired, right? One of the bears. So if you keep that bear anywhere near the Houndsmaster and you get them to 50, that loyal beast cast is going off because you can't stun it, right? So that's one of the safer plays that we have to make, or I like to make in this run. Again, we have the time. This is fine. It'd be nice to have 10, but you know, we took it easy a little bit here. But it's really I think it's a mistake to go on with after Echelon when no one has any cooldowns and try to face tank that whole pack, right? That's a little spicy, and it's especially spicy on an inspired week, right? So if he wasn't inspired and we knew we could get those kicks off, right? Not so bad. But if you want to chill that pull out and you're like kind of fearful of dying to it, which I usually am, have someone else with a nice hard CC get the one on the left, you get the one on the right. Do know that you're going to body pull the first Gargon while you're doing Repentance, but you'll be okay. You know, if you really cared, you know, going with like Shield of Righteous up or there's something up, but I've never died to the Gargons on that initial pull. Once all 3 of them get on me, then it's kind of an issue. You need to pop some mitigation, start getting out of there. And as you saw, I tend to pull them out of the room. And depending on the group utility and what's left, really, right? Because a lot of group utility may have gotten used on the Echelon ads. That's a great place for Treants. And a lot of Shamans, a lot of Resto Shamans are going to use Elemental on the next room for DPS, which is, it's okay. But I would also I would be very happy if Earth Elemental came out on pull of that Gargon pack. Triple Gargon, double Houndmaster. That's also an okay place to have Earth Ellie or Trees come out just to kind of like, you know, take the pressure off the tank essentially, right? It's like, yeah, Loyal Beast, the Earth Elemental, have fun, you know, or at least get the bears taunted by something, and then we will just dispense of the Houndmasters ourselves, and we can then not worry about building up bear bleed stacks while staying in range for Hand of Justice, that sort of thing, especially if there's another Holy Paladin. There's the Earth Elemental. There's nothing sadder when you're running with a Holy Paladin than seeing 2 Hand of Justices on the same Houndmaster. That super feels bad. That is not a good feeling. So I'm communicating with our healer here. I'm like, I'm seeing a lot of lost aggro. And I tell him, I was like, I'm just going to say that that's the Earth Elemental because I can't distinguish which ones are hitting the Earth Elemental and which ones are hitting like anyone else. It looks like the Warriors getting a tiny bit of aggro. But these things, even if I taunt them, kind of just attack whoever they want. So it's a bit of a cluster. You just gotta live it, right? Earth Elemental out of the gate. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know. I'm interested to know what that's doing. I'm not sure if the Earth Elemental continues to taunt the Manifestations of Envy. This is a lot of them at this point. I'm pretty sure I'm going to Divine Shield Bubble. Yeah. So I taunt as many as I can there. I'm immune, right? So hopefully I've taken most of the aggro. I should probably... Oh, I've already bopped someone. I try to bop people to, like, you know, reduce the aggro on them, but these Manifestations of Envy just kind of do whatever they want, right? Not much I can do about it other than how you saw me handle it there. So I'm trying to silence this guy, bring him up to the top. I know this is a DPS loss, but like we're going to be up here for a while. He has got a lot of health, and we just don't want to have to then move again for Pride. So I'm just getting him ready for the Pride position. Most people are not mad about this. However, if like a mage was like, you know, mid-combust and I moved him up there, that would be bad, right? And certain melee specs, I don't think a Demon Hunter or a Warrior have any issues, but it's like, there's definitely a world where like just moving in general is a DPS loss for melee, but I just want to get up here. And I think this is the play, because then if things are really bad, like if we had 3 minutes now, that's probably not timeable, but you would pull Pride outside even, where like you need like the extra 5 seconds of travel time. I would take Pride outside even closer, kill him on the stairs, right? But 430, not an issue. Right, with this level DPS, I'm not feeling too pressured about this. And talking with the group, I'm like, you know, actually I don't even think I ask about time, but you know, when you're on this Pride, there's plays to be made. You can pull Pride on the boss, right? Say we get him to 30, and the beginning of the boss, he doesn't do anything, right? There's no Ritual of Woe, there's like a statue flying around, right? You could probably kill the last 30% of this boss with with this Pride on the boss if we had like 2 minutes on the clock, right? Something like that. I mean, you don't want to wipe, but the healer would need to have mana, which they'll get it back now. But see all of this? All this, and then now we're like time warp and do the thing, right? There's Elysian Decree, right? So what if you needed that 10 seconds there and you were killing Pride as that whole thing was happening? It's a little dicey, right? Getting hit by a boast would be a disaster, but that's a little tiny thing you can do at the end. So we have phased very quickly into this. That was a super fast phase. And so what catches me off guard is that what I normally do is tank it right here. And I don't ever do it differently. I can stand a little closer to him and I can take both of the, I can take 2 of the beams right there. Ooh, let it go, see? So I'm used to kind of playing it close, right? In the case that like on the higher keys or like Tyrannical 15, I would take 2 and bubble or something like that, right? And try to mitigate that. But on Storming, it's not registering in my head that the tornadoes are going to spawn close to him. And that I should probably do this a little bit further back, and it's completely fine. And I screw it up twice. The tornado gets me again and pushes me off of Ritual of Woe. That is run threatening. That's run threatening right there. And it happens twice. It might happen 3 times. Anyway, I'm the heavy in this case. I'm making life difficult. Just little tip for this affix, Storming affix. This is a free dungeon. However, on Storming, play back a little bit. You know, obviously soak the Ritual of Woe, but do not jump. Ooh, I'm getting like gonna die here. The statues hit each other, but obviously don't get knocked off. So I let I think 3 total ticks of Ritual of Woe go off. It's a lot of damage. That's like Pride at like 30 stacks damage per tick, like really bad. So don't do that. Don't let Storming threaten your Halls of Atonement run during Ritual of Woe. Tanks, play it back just a little bit. I'm the only person that got hit by it too. Feels kind of bad as far as the tornadoes, but hey, there it is. Partial friend guild run voice comms Halls of Atonement. Very clean. Really not a lot of pressure on this. I doubt anyone thought that this was going to be like a super close one. Just don't get hit by the tornadoes. I'll see you on the next video.